Welcome, hello, everybody. This is the PoliSciFiPod. I'm Kyle.
No, I'm Cody.
Yeah, this is it's calving season here down at the ranch, and I have not had time to do shit.
It's fair. I also
Yeah.
broke my arm since the last
Oh
time we
shit.
talked, so like, it's been quite the weird. Yeah, I was going out. I was coming home from work, and I decided to stop off at the convenience store after like the big last snowfall, and I ride an e-scooter into town every day. So I was going about 15 to 20 kilometers an hour, and I hit a pothole. Yeah, and I went like straight over my handlebars, and like I jammed my ribs into my elbow into my ribs, and I caught myself like almost in a sit up position, like type
Yeah.
ordeal. And yeah, I went to the doctors,
Yeah.
and the doctors are like, yeah, you have a broken arm. So
Ah,
this is probably like the second bone I've ever broken in my body. My first being probably my nose, but that was the first time it was ever
yeah.
like a limb or something.
Mhm.
So
No, I've been pretty lucky in that regard. But anyway, this week we are talking about something that I have found fairly interesting for a while. The Knights Templar and stuff like that. We're talking a bit about them. This is sort of like a in the series of same thing I did last year about Rasputin, where
yes,
like why is this year this one's why are the Templars always portrayed as the bad guys?
Crusades.
Yes, there's some of that.
Okay.
There's a lot of that. That's point three on the notes that you'll know. Oh, can you see these? Probably can. I assume
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Yeah,
I get.
yeah. It's point three on the notes is the Crusade, which we're gonna talk about. But yeah, there are also like four different things. I did have to look through a bunch of like research pages to get all my information because like four different questions, and also it's the latter end of this gets complicated.
Fair enough.
um but this is this is why are the Templars always portrayed as the bad guys in popular fiction. um which,
I had
to be
a
fair, yeah, go ahead.
recent thought process the other day because I was rewatching. I think it was the Simpsons movie,
Hmm.
and I think it was like after our episode on Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, why is the EPA being like portrayed as the massive assholes in this? And like, why does that stem from like governments implementing regulations, and then all of a sudden like the government's the asshole because they want, like, the EPA doesn't want people like starving or like completely and
Yeah,
entirely like,
it's that's maybe something we talk about sometime because I think
yeah, well,
that's also a plot point in, I think, Ghostbusters.
yeah,
um Although I haven't seen the original Ghostbusters, I've only seen the Melissa McCarthy version.
like the
Yeah, the one with all the ladies.
okay,
Yeah.
very progressive of you, I guess.
I well, people, I everyone was freaking out about it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
you know what? It doesn't seem that bad. I'm just gonna watch it out of spite.
Yeah, but like
That
at
was
the
fine.
point in time, like you don't have a comparison to be made, like from the
Yeah,
original Ghostbusters to the new version. So I mean, like I think you should have at least given the old one, considering I'm assuming that's not quite, frankly, a cult classic, but it's up there.
no, it's. I mean, people will call it just a regular classic, but
Yeah,
I've no, I mostly did it just out of spite, and because it that when I say that, it like triggers a certain type of person,
yeah,
and
fair
that
enough.
really, and I find that amusing personally.
That's actually kind of hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's a joke.
If
Oh,
somebody's
I've
sitting there trying to quote like the original Ghostbusters at you, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" And they go, "Ghostbusters," and and then you go, "Oh, you mean the one with Melissa McCartney?" And they're
yeah,
like,
I've only seen the
"No,
Melissa McCarthy one.
no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no,
Yeah,
no."
Melissa McCarthy, and I forget who's the other lady in it. I know Chris Hemsworth is in it, is like the in like the secretary role.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
want to
that's
say Natasha Leone was in it.
could be.
Uh, Once again,
Yeah,
I've never seen it, so
I liked it. It was for the record, I liked it. I saw it with my mom. It was fun. I saw it in theaters. It was nice.
yeah. But like, also to be fair, I don't think I've actually watched the original Ghostbusters either.
Ah,
So
I've I've my D&D group has been giving me
not out
stupid
of
about
spite
this.
or anything. I
Yeah,
just haven't
because
had the second
yeah,
to.
yeah. It doesn't help that also my D&D group is like mostly 80s kids. So
Hmm.
and I've like I've seen like some of that.
Yeah.
I've seen Terminator. And like, oh yeah, I really was really into fucking the 80s Ninja Turtles and I'm like, I think I've seen both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like there would be a universe with all those whatchamacallits that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
where they're like, "Oh, you've seen Terminator," and you go, "Yeah, you mean like the Sarah Chronicle, like the uh Sarah Connor Chronicles on like Fox in like
Yeah.
2000?" And they're like, "No, the Terminator," and you're like, "Oh," and
Mhm.
then they bring up like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you go, "Oh, you mean the one with Megan Fox in it?" And
I mean,
you're
I would
just
say
like,
like, oh, like the 2003 one.
yeah, you're just like the knockoff version of like good movies at that point.
I know there's a couple 80s movies we got or actually 80s books. Um there are some movies that I talk about, but like none of them are like 80s movies. A
Mhm.
couple 80s books, but we're talking about like stuff off like literally like this is a combination of like stuff that's happened over the like that last 1,000 years of literature. So we're going to be going on a little bit of a journey. So let's start with point one on the docket. Who are these doofuses? So
Sure.
the Knights Templar, otherwise known by their proper name. I'm going to scroll over the Wikipedia titles because it's an entire ass sentence. Um, the Knights Templars, more properly known as the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, and of the Temple of Solomon,
Sure.
which is their full name.
Do we
They,
have a
yeah,
context for that?
yeah. So in the in the crusades there ended up being some obviously the crusades were a thing that occurs in the very late, like starting in like the very late thousands AD,
Hmm.
1000s AD, and basically is like a response is like this was after like the rise of Islam, and Islam had really taken over in the areas of, well, really over the entire area of the Middle East, West Asia, primarily for our purposes in this story of the area that we now call Palestine or Israel, which are comparative holy sites within the big Abrahamic religions,
Fair enough.
because it is the place where well, it's where the legends say the ancient Judaic peoples operated to, or at least to some extent. They did some of this in the area. Muslims have also been had their own very prominent things, and this is also the exact area where like the historical Jesus Christ would have wandered around and done his stuff.
Sure.
In like the facts of all that aren't necessarily important for this, but that's like the cultural context we're coming into this. All three of these religious groups, and others for the record, are just like all consider like this area right along the very eastern edge of the Mediterranean to be like a very sacred area that the three different peoples have cut that have wanted to interact. So as Muslim rule becomes more powerful in the area, there ends up being some conflicts, and eventually the Catholic Pope decides that he wants to like call a crusade on the call a crusade, which is a sort of military holy war, and go to send a bunch of people there to like retake the Holy Land. And some of it starts by just like, okay, we need like some bodyguards for like Christian pilgrims,
Yeah.
just to like there's some conflicts in the region. None of it's super central to what we're talking about today, but in the course of the Crusades, various religious military orders pop up. Among them, the Knights Templar. Other popular ones are the Teutonic Knights, the Knights Hospitalier, and like stuff like that. And these groups are somewhat important because they end up doing a bunch of stuff that becomes really commonplace in normal like regular modern day Europe and North America, because like hospitalier, that's like that's sort of where we get the terms hospital and how
Okay.
it like that term gets into the modern use. um the Templars, named for it's literally just like Templar. They're Templars, and they're
Yeah.
because their main base was on a place called the Temple Mount, which we'll talk a little bit more about a bit. And they become fairly prominent, one of the more prominent members of these groups. Numbers about their peak membership numbers go up to 20,000, but it's actually more like 2,000 soldiers,
Yeah.
because they end up with a big civilian party organization. But yeah, they come to prominence in the early Crusades, and then start to lose prominence about the late 1200s, when the Crusades start to become less productive and start to lose the plot. They also start to lose power. One of the first things that really brings them into popular culture consciousness is that they control the Temple Mount. And for those of you who don't know what the Temple Mount is, it is kind of like one of the most important religious sites in the Abrahamic religions. This is a hill in Jerusalem, in the region of
Okay.
Jerusalem, where they've built like various temples on top of. Starting the very earliest stuff we have like definite physical evidence for is at least 2,500 years old. And depending on who you talk to, the history of this place, the history of temples on top of the Temple Mount, goes into like 3,000 years old. And there's like people that have like been in this area occupying the hill where this is, going into like 6,000 years, because it's, yeah, the part of one of the earliest examples of places humanity has been. In Orthodox Jewish religions, it's believed that there was a first temple that exists in that 25 to 3,000 year point. People aren't sure of how that works out, mostly because I mean, it's an incredibly holy site. It's very difficult to excavate stuff. You got to be doing very particular scientific tests in order to get your information, and it's just not clear about like, we don't have a firm date on when the legendary first temple on the Temple Mount would have existed. Popular knowledge exists of this second, of what we call the second temple, which is a big deal. Like, and this is where the Christianity comes into it. This is like a place where the historical Jesus would have hung out, possibly.
Sure.
Yeah, this is like a place where he would have done some of his stuff, in theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just
Yeah.
like smoking a cigarette behind the 7-Eleven. He's
No,
actually
this is
like doing
this.
some
Yeah.
of it.
No, they
Okay.
temple. I'm calling it a temple. Synagogue might be the word for it, but it's like a big synagogue. Is probably I'm not, again, I'm not a theological expert. I'm just giving the vague explanation of how this works. but the Second Temple is the big one. We know we have the best idea of how the history works of it. The historical Jesus would have hung out around this place. The exact details are debated.
Hmm.
Some depending on who, it depends on who you talk to about what happened there. But we know it gets destroyed in the 70s AD, which is about 40 years after the death of the historical Jesus. Christianity kind of isn't super invested in this place. They recognize its importance, but it's not like their main thing. So they've mostly left it between the Jews and the eventually um, the Muslims will come in and build and start building mosques on this area, and it's considered like one of the like most important like one of the three big sacred mosques. As context, this is supposed like according to Islamic tradition, this is where Muhammad ascends into heaven.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a big deal. And eventually, after the Crusades start, the Christian Catholic forces end up taking control of the area, and the Templars end up taking residence in it and using it as a base for better part of 200 years.
Yeah.
And this brings us in, yeah, and this obviously brings us into our first little area why to get into prominence. One of the first like pop culture things about this is something called is actually like a 12th, like something that would have been written contemporaneously with the Templars is Wolfram von Eichenbach's Parzival, which is an Arthurian legend. And essentially, it says that like the an allegory for the Templars is probably a Germanized version of it, the Templisen, or apparently Templari, which is essentially says they had the Holy Grail. Which, if you think the Holy Grail exists, it's not exactly silly that like the people in charge of the Temple Mount would be able to get a hold of it. Like the idea, this is our first little crossover because this is like these guys are in like one of the most sacred sites in the Abrahamic faiths, and the idea that they get a hold of
Okay,
certain like
maybe I'm
yeah.
just fucking
Yep.
stupid. I know that they think that it's gonna give them like everlasting life, right? That's the thing. That's the thing
Um,
with the Holy Grail.
depends. Depends on the legend.
Okay, well, according to the Arthurian legend, it's everlasting life, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's a thing.
because it was the chalice that basically had the blood of Christ in it, like
Yeah,
actual Christ.
it's the also as a like a future thing. This is like one of the guy from Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, like at the
Yeah.
end of the movie who has the Holy Grail, he's a Templar.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is also like drawing from that myth.
Sure.
Um, but these interpretations of it aren't don't necessarily portray the Templars as like villains because that comes a little bit later. But
Hmm.
this is where, but yeah, they're part of this really big organization, and so why do they end up as a bit of a famous figure? Why do we hear about them more than we hear about the Knights Hospitale or the Taconic Order, who end up lasting a lot longer? Well, the Templars were certainly a pretty competent military force in their time.
Sure.
Um, they were they were heavy infantry or cavalry, so they're pretty tough guys. They were pretty successful. They stopped being successful at a certain point, but that coincides with like the Crusades is a concept winding down. Like the Crusades is like in and of themselves stopped going as well. So like it's not purely on them. Like at the point where like the Templars get kicked off the Temple Mount, it's because like the Muslims are starting to get their shit together, and you get like figures like Saladin, who's and we start seeing like the biggest fights of the Crusades, where uh were like counter crusades, and we get some things, and then again like the Crusades. I won't talk about them too much, uh, especially because there's some crusades that happen after the Knights Templar gets dissolved. But essentially, like the war starts getting harder, and they end up losing stuff after that. So that's one thing. Another interesting thing is one thing they got famous for. They developed this practice for pilgrims where you could deposit money at like the beginning of your pilgrimage. The Templars would give you a promissory note or whatever, and you'd be able to redeem that at the end of your journey, so you're not walking around with a ton of money on you all the time.
Kind
Yeah.
of scummy.
No, I mean it's like it's necessary because like this way you're not worried about getting robbed.
Yeah, but like your holy knight.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I mean, I guess there's assholes out there that don't respect religion, but for the most part, like, you gonna rob a nun
I mean, it's not just nuns. It's like a bunch of
or like
regular people doing it, and like
a priest?
yeah. I mean, it's again, it's regular people doing it too. Um,
Sure.
it's and there are Christianity in this time is not as open to financial shenanigans as they become in the later ages.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so this is more of like okay, we are just like the Templars get will like hold on to a lot of money, and this way you're not going to get worried about it, and they ended up being good for it. And this is they sort of become the early infrastructure around European banking. Like I've seen claims that like they invent the banker's check,
Huh.
basically, like stuff like that. They end up, and this ends up. This is why they end up having like such a good civilian end of their organization, is because, or like non-military end of their organization, is because a lot of people are doing money stuff, and there's reasons this doesn't pop up earlier, mostly because it's like it's the Middle Ages. There's only so much I imagine someone did take advantage of the system and like made like a fake promissory note or whatever, and like went to the other end and like was able to withdraw a bunch of money. I mean, they'd probably find out at a certain point, but anyway. Yeah, so the Templars end up being like early examples of like banking in Europe.
Yeah.
And they're also becoming this sort of state level organization.
Yeah.
Um, because also like 20,000 people isn't like small in this time period. Like that's a pretty big force. And also they don't they only really report to the Pope. So they're not getting taxed by local officials, and they have bases all across Europe to facilitate their operations. And you get these yeah, and you get like this you end up in this position where like they become quite powerful, and they're like this level actor, which does not in itself have a like its own government, and they do eventually end up like throwing their muscle around. They essentially force the king of Cyprus to abdicate for like someone they prefer more. And also in the about in the eventually you'll get to this point where the Knights of Hospitalier will like essentially take over Prussia for a little bit. So this is it's like people are starting to get to this idea like oh these are big deals, and they're not like if you're like a state actor, like you're the king of France or whatever, you're starting to maybe give these sort of organizations a bit of a side eye, which brings us to the early 1300s.
Really, really dumb question here.
Yep.
While we're just speak, it's what would a regular military force look like?
um it's bigger than this. It's a lot of
Yeah.
like this, these guys got good numbers, and they're, yeah, like it depends. It's a
Yeah.
complicated question at this point. You kind of got to, the king, essentially a king of an area will have to like call upon soldiers when it's time to do it. It's usually going to be like restricted to,
I feel like also
yeah.
like not to be like
Hmm.
weird about it, but like a military group fighting for a higher power
Hmm.
than like a king is probably a more efficient like army than somebody who's like fighting for a lord.
Yeah, there's some of that going on. Like that's not like a
Okay, fair
silly
enough.
thing to say.
Yeah.
No, there's some of that going on. And just like some of these guys are more regularly trained.
Yeah.
Um this is also like the Middle Ages. It's a lot of military stuff very reliant on your physical strength. Nowadays with firearms, the soldiers can get a little fatter because like
Mhm.
you still have a gun. You can point that in a direction. It'll fire a thing which is vaguely lethal or
Yeah, take that
basically lethal.
point of
Um,
advice, Pete Hegseth. Not everybody needs to be in like peak military
yeah,
fucking perfection to
yeah.
fucking
Oh,
sit in the
yeah. No,
military.
no. This is every military on Earth has complained about how fat their troops are, like from now
Yeah.
to the beginning of time. No, that's a thing that people always are complaining about. If you go into it, but yeah, now, but especially in the medieval times, there's no firearm. There's not, certainly not like a lot of personal, like man-sized firearms lying around. Nothing
Yeah.
that's super effective anyway. Like they're maybe starting to pour out of China at this point, but they're not super popular. So like it's a very much having some people who are like regularly practiced is going to be an example, is going to be very like advantageous. And the Templars would have a permanent military force, which isn't necessarily different. And also gathering from larger numbers, there's reasons this could be fairly threatening. And again, yeah, because if you fall out of practice, it becomes a thing. It um like there is a lot of like something that's incredibly revolutionary in like medieval England is the longbowmen, and England works their ass off to keep people strong enough to run a medieval longbow, because those are very heavy draw weight, and you got to be practicing with them very regularly. And people aren't as well fed in this time period. So yeah, but yeah, back to the early 1300s. So we've entered this time period where these monastic military orders are getting pretty powerful. They're not really accountable to local lords. And also, the Crusades have sort of turned around. So, like a group, especially like the Templars, they're not based in Jerusalem anymore. They got a base in Europe now,
Hmm.
where they got bases in Europe, which is where the actual leadership is hanging out. So they're just around, like waiting for eventually there might be another crusade military push. At the time, who knows? You don't know there's going to be three more crusades or whatever at this point. So they're just standing around, and in the meantime, they're just sort of like swinging their power around, which results in like yeah, stuff that we've seen lying around with some of the things I've talked about earlier. And they're just sort of and a lot more of the banking stuff happened, which leads to the King of France owing the Templars a lot of money. This brings us to King Philip IV, who is seeing the growing power of these organizations and noticing that he has a lot of debt to these guys from mostly his father, actually. His father mostly owed these people like it run up these debts. It was kind of complicated for him, and he's also notingly like increasing political powers of these guys, and he doesn't much care for these guys that aren't accountable to him. And he's also Philip the Fourth is also coming off a big conflict with the old with the Pope, or one of the more recent popes, Clement the. Sorry, there's like two popes. I need to get them straight here. yeah, so the king Philip the Fourth had a lot of a big row with Benedict the 11th, and they had been having some conflicts, and so the Catholic Church and the French monarchy aren't really getting along. Benedict the 11th dies in 1304, um, which leads into Boniface the Eighth, who lives for less than a year. Or no, sorry, Boniface the Eighth is the one he had the conflict with. Yeah, Boniface the Eighth is the one he had the conflict left. Benedict he's that yeah, and then eventually, despite the fact that this ends up resolving itself because Benedict Boniface the Eighth dies, Benedict the 11th takes over. He's only there for a year. We're not going to talk about him. And then eventually Clement the Fifth comes into power. And he is the other main character in our story. So there's a lot of tensions going on between the Pope and the King of France. And the King of France has this problem where he like owes the French a lot of the Templars a lot of money. So it seems like he got the idea that like maybe he gets rid of these guys and then he doesn't owe anyone any money.
Fair enough. That checks out mathematically.
Yeah, because here's the thing about banks: they require the cooperation of a more dominant socio-political power in order to keep to like maintain their debts or whatever. Clement the Fifth is also a Frenchman by birth, so this is this is going to be and yeah, so the Pope is now like the relationship between the Pope and the King of France is improving, and then we end up with one day in the late 13 in the late in the 1312s or in the 1311s, uh the Philip the Fourth calls upon the Templars to go talk around to talk about this, and it all ends up with France, Philip the Fourth proclaiming that the Templars are doing a bunch of blasphemous stuff, everything under the sun. They're worshiping Satan, they're disrespecting the cross, they're engaging in homosexuality. Take your pick.
Sure.
Just grab bag like stuff. And because they're getting back together, Philip the Fourth is able to convince Clement the Fifth to disband the order, which also allows Philip the Fourth to arrest all the major Templars in France, which amounts to a little over 100 people, because this is leadership, and they are tortured until they confess to their crimes, in quotes. And this most of these guys are then let go, except that some of them recount their confessions because they've been tortured into giving these confessions, and those 50 so people are burnt at the stake,
Okay.
including the leader of the Templars at the time. Where is his name? There are so many fancy names. Jacques de Molay is the Templar Grand Master at this time. He is killed among them, and legend has it that he proclaims that both the Pope, both Clement the Fifth and Philip the Fourth, will be dead within the year, and they are.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah, no, they are. They probably a coincidence, but they do. Like that's a thing.
Yeah.
Those people both die with. They're also, I mean, notedly, it's the Middle Ages. They're both in their 50s at least. Clemenson is 50, like just barely 50. Philip the Fourth is 46. I mean, they die young, but it's the Middle Ages. That's necessarily
Yeah.
yeah, it's not crazy. And yeah, this is a bit of a thing. And also the Pope proclaims that Templars across Europe are to be arrested. This is applied spottingly.
Sure.
Places like England, the Templars are several Templars are arrested. They aren't found guilty or charged. depending on the situation. The King of Portugal just straight up does not cooperate. He rebrands the local Templars into the Order of Christ. This is something, and this is where our legend begins, basically.
Sure.
Because lots of things happen. Everyone base everyone a lot of people basically know this is a farce. There are some anti-Templar riots at the time, but that's mostly like that's limited to France.
Yep.
The people that aren't like being like explicitly fed propaganda about this don't really buy into it fully. They look into it outside of France, but yeah, nothing really. No one else gets killed outside of France.
Yeah, so speaking on the level of like Templar myths here, quickly, uh, I was reading in the Da Vinci Code, which
Yeah, we'll
is
get to
like
that. Yeah.
okay. So apparently, according to the Da Vinci Code, that the day that this is happened was on Friday the 13th, and that stems the rumor that Friday the 13th is seen as a very uh unlucky day. And that's because
Um.
that they slaughtered all of these Templars on
Yeah.
Friday the 13th. I don't know
Hold
how
on.
accurate that is.
We can find this out. March 11th, 1312. Um.
Well, like that instantly disproves it, does it not? When you say that it's March 11th,
Uh.
1312, it
Oh,
wouldn't have
hold on.
been a
Yeah.
Friday
Hold
because
on. Hold
it's,
on.
it's Friday the
Uh.
13th because it's
Okay.
the
So
11th.
it's calendars are also weird. Okay. Yeah. So it's right. Yeah, you're right. Also, it's depending on the calendar, it's 11th or 18th. I think
Okay,
if I'm
so
encountering. Yeah, it's or at least that's when Jacques de Molay is killed.
mhm.
Um, Also, he I should also point out he is 70
Yeah, okay,
at the time he is killed.
yeah, like he's not
Um,
getting another
yeah. So yeah,
20 or 30 years at least.
no, yeah, he's killed. They kill like it's leadership, and also like a lot of these people are like bankers or whatever. But yeah, and this is just a thing. I guess he's 1314 is when he's actually killed, but the order's disbanded in 1312. But yeah, so yeah, a couple things spring from this. Um, so for a long time, I mean, we basically know now that like yeah, the King of France trumped up a bunch of charges. It's also noted by like later historians that like this a lot of the tactics used against the Templars are also used against Boniface, the Pope that King Philip was having uh, a pissing match with. Like a lot of rhetoric is like reused from that conflict.
Yep.
I think there's just a couple things added. There's like some references to them worshiping Baphomet. Now the debate isn't so much whether these like charges are fake. There's just some historical debate about how far up their ass they pulled these from.
Yep.
Like there's maybe some accusations about like, oh, were the Templars being trained to like pretend to swear to like forsake their faith in cases of interrogation? There's also maybe like some things of them worshiping like skulls and stuff. Those might be referring to worshiping of like holy relics, which for those of you who don't know, their traditional like interpretation for a relic is like a body part of a saint in the Christian tradition. So like
Okay.
that's something that would have been normal at the time.
Baphomet is kind of a weird term because I think I've seen it more recently to describe the Epstein ruling class.
Yeah.
So
Again, also
just a weird.
sadly we will get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how this is where this ends. But yeah, for now we're talking a bit about some people will like make conspiracy theories of saying they were killed for different reasons.
Mhm.
Um, like I mean, again, like the people who did this are lying about why they're doing it. The official statement from like the King of France is like, oh yeah, these people are like doing crimes against Christianity and they're like doing a bunch of homosexual stuff or whatever. Like that's pretty much fake on on its face. The Vatican has since like proclaimed that like yeah, this was a bunch we shouldn't have cooperated with this. This is there might have been some problems, but this wasn't the way of dealing with it. This was largely an inappropriate thing to do. So, and this, but yeah, like largely like we have a good idea what the reasons for doing this are. This is maybe like putting like between like the debts and like maybe wanting to put these like monastic military orders on notice that they weren't like above like pissing off like a local lord. They there is motivation from the powers at the time to sort of put these organizations in their place. And given the time period, this isn't like a weird way of doing that. Obviously, it's not an appropriate way to handle things, but it's like a normal way of handling it for this sort of government at the time. But because of some later stuff, some people are going to make up shit about how this maybe like other reasons why they did this. Some of these excuses to get are less silly than others, but I mean, on one hand we have a bunch of stuff that's almost certainly true and some like out there speculation. Like the big thing in the Da Vinci Code, because we're going to talk about that a bit. The Da Vinci Code, which takes a lot of its shit from the blood and the holy blood and the holy grail, a 1982 book from the UK and some French scholars who are basically saying that Mary Magdalene was Jesus's like wife, and that there is like a historical bloodline descended from Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, um, which has been covered up by, which is allegedly been covered up by the Catholic Church and I guess also the Orthodox Church because it's like disagrees with their interpretation of who Jesus Christ is, which is like a holy figure that wouldn't be engaging in that sort of relationship with a mortal human. It is blasphemous in the sense that like it contradicts the idea, it contradicts the image of Jesus Christ being a figure imbued with God, with the essence of God. Now, that part's the less silly part. The holy blood and the holy grail basically implies that the descendants of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene move westward into Europe to form the Merovingian dynasty, which is like these are the guys who are going to be the prototypes for the French monarchs and some of the German monarchs. Like they're a pretty big deal. So this is silly. I This is my opinion. I'm not super qualified to say this is silly, but it is silly. Like it's there's no way, like also the Merovingians would absolutely have bragged about that shit. It also proclaims the existence of this thing called the Priory of Sion, which is like a fraternal order within the Catholic Church, which is like dedicated to keeping the secret down. That doesn't exist. Some of the people involved in this have like proclaimed that they were making it up, but yeah, it's just not the facts of the matter. And essentially, their idea is that the Templars found out about this and they were killed for that. I don't think that's like tracks. That would have also been like a thing that would have been said at the time if they were like proclaiming like That would have also been a thing they were getting in trouble for if they had like publicly proclaimed that Jesus and Magdalene were married. That would also have been a thing, but it's not really mentioned in contemporary sources. But yeah, and there's just different sillies about this. Like it's also noted that like some of this is like ripped off, like essentially like these organizations are like going to do a bunch of crazy shit. There's some like implications that they're like doing all this weird cult shit, which is like borrowed from like anti-Semitic and anti-Masonic tropes, which is we're gonna get into that a little bit more later. But that's one thing that's been sort of been implied by some pulp culture. Although that's at least Da Vinci Code, it seems like the Da Vinci Code's not really anti-Templar. Not that that's like something that's in his mind. Also, Dan Brown seems to think that's basically true, is what I'm understanding. Like Dan Brown, the author of the Da Vinci Code, thinks that like, yeah, this is a thing that's true. But that's a story from another time. The other fun thing is that some people think that in the purge that was going on, some of the Templars took the fleet of Templar ships and like sailed away to some unknown regions, or in a very particular legend, sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to Oak Island where they buried their treasure. So that's the Canadian connection, apparently. Which no, they didn't do that. I'm aware that Oak Island people have said they found like a Crusaders cross on the island. I don't think that's how that worked out. It's also strange credulity. European shipwrights weren't really at the state where they could have like taken these ships across the Atlantic. They would have had to like dive into some like Scandinavian rumors of like the guys of like okay, how did those like would have had to hear the rumors of like Eric the Red crossing the Atlantic and finding like Vinland or whatever. And no, it didn't happen. It's also noted that they probably didn't have that many ships in order to like do a big crossing. It might have been like two ships that they had, but most of the time the Templars were renting ships, so they didn't really have a fleet. The Templars didn't have like a navy or anything. Some fleeing of Templars did happen, probably with some treasures. Some stuff did almost certainly go missing, but this is some people have just gone crazy with that. And there's some versions of that where like you can do neat stuff with that in a story. Some interesting Catholic artifacts could have gone missing in the stuff in the struggle. And yeah, there's some of that going on. And then outside of this, most of the Knights Templars resources went into the Knights of Hospitalier. Obviously, I said earlier that in Portugal they just formed the Military Order of Christ, because the Portuguese king just saw through this absolutely. But yeah, and they don't, and those guys end up sticking around for a little while. They're actually still around technically, obviously not as prominent. They have since been sort of secularized in the last few hundred years. It's just a thing that exists in the Republic of Portugal today, which no one seems to bring up. Like the the Military Order of the Christ is like a actual extension of the Templar Order. That's where we're at now. What do you think so far, Cody? Before I get into the finale of the episode, should we say?
I was saying I had a couple of talking points there that
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
that I'm vaguely remembering
Mm-hmm.
the Knights Templar being like a small piece in, and they're never painted like good guys. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of it. Maybe it was Assassin's Creed.
yeah, they're in
The
Assassin's Creed.
first Assassin's Creed, I think they were
Yeah,
a big portion of it. I can't remember if they're the main bad
they
guys
are.
or if they
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, they are.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like this is my main like thorough point of the my argument is like this basic story here. It kind of paints them as like the victims in all this.
Yeah.
No one's ever told like a story. I mean, some of this is just like, oh, these stories aren't going to pop up until at least the modern day because, like, what they're gonna like. Oh, they're going to like they got killed off and then they killed the king of France and the pope out of
Mhm.
revenge. And like there's only a certain points in like history where like that can be viewed as a good thing. And it's not really going to start pulling up until the late like the at least the 18th century where like you can even talk like that.
Well, I mean, modern day. Wasn't Jimmy Kimmel just getting into like a huge amount of trouble for like making the comment of like Donald Trump's wife looking like an expectant window, and then like 2 days later,
Yeah.
um, there was an assassination attempt on him, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, at what point in time do you classify like things as
Yeah.
like straight up just coincidence? Like Jimmy Kimmel's not planning the assassination of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they've also like put like Comey in jail
Yeah,
because like he posted a meme of something and they figure it. I haven't looked at the meme, but I mean they've also. I don't think they're friends.
yeah,
That'll be
definitely not.
yeah. But yeah, but anyway, that's actually something to bring up because like for a long time in human history, like it doesn't matter that the Templars didn't do anything wrong. The guys in charge are just allowed to do this sort of thing.
Hmm.
Like it's going to be a long time before you can even talk shit about the guys who did this to them. So like that like anti-government sentiment can't be like put like you would get in big trouble for shit like that.
Yeah,
And it's Protestantism is like a still a ways away. It's probably in people's memories or like in people's like cultural zeitgeist when Protestantism does end up like picking up, but it's not they're not at that time. This is not a big enough deal to cause any sort of revolt or anything. In this light, there's some things that happen that we talk about later because you do have this little suspicious thing like I said, the king and the pope who put these guys that put these Templar leaders to the sword die within a year. It's pretty suspicious if you're like superstitious and everything. There's even like a legend from the French Revolution where where Louis XVI is put to death, and it's said that somebody dipped a handkerchief into Louis XVI's blood, and like it said, Jacques de Molay has been avenged. I don't like that might not be like a real thing that happened, but
yep.
it's hard to say that that's not like um a
Especially with the
representation of that. Yeah.
like like 13th or 14th century, maybe even lower. I kind of fell asleep during the timeline there. Not
Yeah. No.
realistically,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, but like a weird like early world view of the world where they're like, "Yep, that's definitely a curse." They just put a curse on the guy, and
Yeah.
he's just like, "Yeah, the guy's probably gonna die eventually." Like,
Yeah, there's even like like you could even if like you're like a in the divine thing, it's like, oh yeah, God
yeah,
struck those assholes down for what they did. If like
yeah,
if you swing that way, but it's yeah, there is a revolutionary angle to like what has happened here that you could tell, but like no one does it because in the modern day we've decided that these guys are like the source of all evil for some
hmm,
reason because they've been pulled into the grand unified conspiracy theory. I don't know if that's the proper name for it, but
sure.
they've become a staple in conspiracy culture. It has been said that they've sort of like roped them in to, like, as we see in Assassin's Creed, like the Templars are very much viewed as the bad guy in that game. And that's one thing in the setting of Assassin's Creed 1, where it's like an anti, where like the assassins are trying to repel the Crusades. It's
Yeah.
another thing when you're in the early 1800s dealing with the French Revolution. The Templars are on the side of the revolution. And I gotta say, Assassin's Creed Unity, the one where they do that, it's just, I did not like that very much, because like they've set up this scenario where like, oh, this is where like you've put them in a setting where like where the assassins should be at the height of their power, because they've like destroyed Templar influence in France, and you're barely dealing with any of that. Also, Ubisoft is a terrible. You can't go without mentioning it, but Ubisoft is a company that has like facilitated and like downplayed sexual assault allegations. But the popular view of the Templars in this age is very much what we see in Assassin's Creed. They are this evil organization that has been like merged in with a bunch of other boogeymen, which we've
Yeah.
like decided are, and like not even mutually exclude, not even like boogeymen that could coexist. They are a mix of things like Freeman, like they've been their myth has been like tied into like Freemasonry,
Yeah.
which Freemasonry is essentially this thing which descended from it's a social club which descended from like people who were like stonemasons, and they made a big
Yep.
social club and then eventually expanded beyond that. And
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to point out that two of the bigger things that I've seen recently was the National Treasure film, and in that film, I think the first one they're actually hunting the Knights Templar treasure, and then in the second film, there is a guy who is shown to eventually be a Freemason.
Yeah,
And I don't know what that actually plays into or what they were doing in the Freemason one because it's National Treasure, and you
yeah.
don't
So,
watch National Treasure for a history lesson.
but yeah, I think like, so the Masons like have like for a long time implemented some heralds, like symbolism from like these monastic military orders, and not just limited to the Templars are odd. They take stuff from like a bunch of different people that are like in this field. But like they take symbols from like the military Constantinian order. They take stuff from the Order of Malta, the Hospitalier, stuff like that. It's all like, it's a mix together of different things. Some people have said there's a connection because certain Templars freed to Scotland and like aided Robert the Bruce, which uh, I mean, it's technically maybe possible. It's not really. They didn't form Freemasonry though. There might
Yeah,
have
but
been like some that had to like find different
that is
things.
kind of my whole point when I was bringing up the military earlier. If if army basically disband and was like, "Hey, we're gonna go somewhere else," nobody would give a fuck. Like there would be no giant fucking headline that we're talking about like 400 or 500 or 6 however long later about like this is like, oh, the French military disbanded and then they fucked off to like the United Kingdoms and or the United States and they're part of the like join the revolution or whatever. It's not really a headline like it because it's an order and there's an organization behind it that all of a sudden it's like written into pretty much every pop culture mythos since like
It should also be noted that like the Freemasons don't actually believe that to be true.
uh-huh.
So I mean, yeah, okay. If you're an anti-Masonic person, you're going to be like, oh well, why would I believe what the Freemasons say? I mean, it's not just not corroborated. Also, like again, the Templars in most of the regular Templars were not like put to the sword. They only
Hmm.
actually killed like 50 guys. They only tortured like a maybe like a few scores of them, which is bad. But like a lot of
Yeah.
these people were able to like fuck off, and like a lot of them got like in again absorbed into the nice hospitalier, which essentially is just like going to the same business across the street. They've very overplayed what these people were up to, and
Oh,
yeah, go
that's
ahead.
what I was gonna say. It is. It's the conspiracy theory fucking echo chamber that like everything that like is on the person to sit there and prove. Every conspiracy just boils down to, well, that's because they don't want you to know about the aliens type level of cover up. Like it's just like, can you attest to these things anymore, or like how deep is your belief going to be rooted in? Like,
Yeah, it's very much a I they don't like that's what separates conspiracy theories from like actual like critical thinkers is like they won't like accept an explanation when you give it to them.
mhm.
You can lead them to water and not make them and they won't drink. It's also noted that like there are also some like neo Templar organizations which aren't uh yeah, they're just no direct like combinations. Um it's some people have taken over the name for different causes at times. Um the Order of Christ, like I said, they're around. They're secularized now, but they didn't we know where they were. It's not some big mystery with them. So yeah, there's also like the big other thing is like a lot of this gets conflated with the Illuminati,
Sure, that too.
which is okay. So the
That
original
was the big three that I was completely gaping on for this whole time.
they're very much just conflating all these three things together, despite the fact they have like
Which I think was
tenuous potential connections.
I think that was actually but Dan Brown's first book was the Illuminati.
Mm, yeah,
The second book was the Prior of Scion, but also the Knights Templar connection. And the third one got weird.
yeah.
Can't remember which one that one. I'm pretty sure that was Inferno, and that was like, hey, there's a guy that's like gonna release a massive virus that's gonna kill a whole bunch of people, and you need to
Mm,
stop him. Thrown in with some like weird art stuff and like travel around Italy and try and stop the guy or whatever. But
yeah. No, and there's also like the Illuminati was like a Bavarian organization for a little bit where they were like like sort of like proto atheist organization. Not really proto atheist. They seem to be an atheist organization, and they like were trying to like advance like science and like reason and whatnot. They were eventually stomped out fairly quickly.
mhm,
Um, they but one of like the Illuminati guys knew a guy called like Saint Germain, the Count of Saint Germain, who is a fraud.
sure.
Like he like basically claimed to be like 500 years old and can make like a bunch of diamonds and shit.
Mhm.
Like he was like, "Oh, I'm 500 years old and have magic powers." He invented like a cool triangle shaped book that would apparently give you like secrets to treasure and like extended life. He eventually dies in 1784. He knew a bunch of like important people because he was a weirdo people like to invite to parties. And like some guys in like a theosophy movement is where they make this claim is like he was like a bunch of different guys and he was actually like a secretly a member and like he was we knew him as Saint Germain, the Count of Saint Germain, but he was like also like a few other guys including like a leader of the Knights Templar or something equally stupid like that. um
Yeah, but like, yeah,
yeah,
it it's weird because like there is some like, okay, so but like for a very niche conspiracy theory here in Canada, there was the lady who just started calling herself the Queen of Canada. She was recently charged with, like, gun laws and stuff like that, but, like, that's even in itself is, like, a big conspiracy because people are gonna point to her arrest and be like, "Well, see, they're trying to silence her." Another one was the guy that called himself, like, the king of the United States. That one was kind of a little bit more kooky because they just kinda let him do his thing. Like, you could go out and, like, buy some money that he printed off himself, which was, like, kind of funny,
Yeah, she
but
she
it
was he apparently appointed her as Queen of Canada, which
okay, maybe
yeah,
there's a
so
connection
equally
there then.
irrelevant because she was appointed by a Yankee. So I immediately don't recognize her alleged rule.
Mhm.
But
But it's just but the my point being earlier when I was saying this guy has a count title. So, like, it leaves some air of, like, "Oh, okay, well, he's obviously important enough to be an account." Like, how hard is it to be a count?
yeah, I don't.
Like,
Yeah,
is that, like, a title you're born
yeah,
into or, like, appointed to or, like
yeah, but like you could like want like essentially he was a count of like some other place, is what they were saying.
oh,
Which
so
yeah,
it wasn't
which
like a
perpetually far away from where he's from the people he's talking to.
okay. So it'd be like me saying I'm like the Count of Transylvania right now, and like nobody's gonna sit
Yeah,
there and verify it for me.
and it's like the Middle Ages, and like you can't. And it's like you got how are you even like fact checking this guy?
Okay, fair
Like
enough.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's dumb, it's dumb shit like that. But yeah, and they've
it's
like
like when
confaded.
somebody
Yeah.
somebody calls themselves a doctor and they have like a PhD in like art history or something.
Oh, you can also just do that in this time period.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like you can just like say you're a doctor, and like also it's like they don't know anything because it's
I
like
wonder how many people out there were like actually just like practicing law because they could
yep,
just but like move to a different county and will be like,
yeah,
well, I was a doctor from this place. Here's my letter of reference or whatever. Talk to my friend Jim. He can account for it. Like
oh yeah, it's a thing.
there was actually I think a guy that had like an eidetic memory, so like he could recall facts in World War II. Say that he was a military doctor, and then I think he actually did ended up having to operate on people. And he read a military textbook and was able to do what he needed to do to save their life and stuff. But like that, but eventually they figured out that the guy was a fraud because he gave him somebody else's certificate. And then I can't remember what happened to him. I think he might have been in prison for
Yeah, there's some.
like false charges or whatever. That's my tangent.
Yeah, and they're yeah, and, like these three groups are being like conflated, and despite the fact that like the Masons are very much not necessarily like a non-religious group, like they're like they would be sort of like mutually exclusive with the Illuminati, depending on what branch. The branch that expands into like the United States ends up being of Freemasonry. Then ends up going into the United States is does end up being like a place where you can discuss politics a good bit. Um, like again, like there are people who are like actually like Benjamin Franklin was like a leader of them in the United States for a bit, and yeah, it is. I think it's like there's just their legacy is sort of in their legacy in pop culture is like in a way been like taken over by these like anti-revolutionary peoples that like want to like conflate the idea that like the Templars are like trying to change things, which is actually the opposite of what we see in the Assassin's Creed, where it's like, oh, the Templars are trying to keep things more conservative, and like keep everything more like status quo, except when they're not. Um, they want order and power, except when they need to do a revolution. When the assassins who allegedly believe in less, more freedom, are actually siding with the other guys, and blah 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 blah. No, it's just like feel like there's a really cool story out there where the Templars get to do like end up founding democracy because after the death of the order, they decide that like the kings of France are fundamentally like outside of like the will of God, so they need to like destroy the monarchy, all the monarchies of Europe, which is what some of the conspiracy theorists are saying, but like they're saying it as if it's a bad thing.
I was saying that, like, well, how far are we gonna go into like the Assassin's Creed lore? Because eventually, Ubisoft is gonna run out of ideas, and they're gonna have to be like, well, the Knights Templar have moved to space, and they still need to be dealt with, or whatever.
Well, I mean, they're like the the gods in that game are aliens, I think. So that's
Oh, geez,
yeah. No,
I,
it's.
I'm
Oh,
I'm
have you
way
played any of
behind.
them?
No, no, no. Yeah, I think I played the first one, and then I quit playing the first one because I didn't like the combat system. Like, I didn't like just running around backstabbing people and then like parrying everything. So
I do like the first one quite a bit. I did.
some people like I think they said that like Black Flag was probably the best one out of the bunch. There's probably the one that's set in Athens, like the
Yeah,
Greek one,
it's
that's probably half decent, but like,
cranked full of microtransactions now, which so
oh,
yeah, or at least Odyssey was. I don't know if
yeah,
Shadows is, but I mean I don't have an interest in giving Ubisoft like $80. So
fair enough.
like I played Unity and I played well three. I played three and was like, oh, this is really fun, and then they killed the main character at the end of it. So it's like, why am I? Why would I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Like it's they had a plot and they're like, no, fuck it, we're just gonna do whatever we feel like.
Hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, because I think it even like I played like Unity doesn't even have like a modern day half of the plot line, which is lame. Because also Unity, I don't like Unity. It's I don't know. It seems like the beginning of the end in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say, but yeah. I played the first five, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but which I kind of liked. Yeah, I don't know. It's
And I don't want to think about my games too heavily.
yeah,
And
it's
like, give me a like Fallout where they're like, hey, let's drop a nuke, and then you're trying to find your son or whatever.
I yeah.
Like,
I mean, I
let me wake up in like Skyrim where it's like, oh, well, you're a
I have
horse thief, and now you're about to get executed, and now there's a god dragon that you need to murder for
yeah
whatever reason, or a civil war you need to stop,
yeah.
or
I did just replay Skyrim like a little while ago. I had a lot of fun.
I think
Um,
everybody just should just replay Skyrim.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I picked up Arc Raiders recently, and like I'm still like super on the fence about it because
yeah,
it falls into the like same kind of problems that I'm having with like there's no story behind it. It is
hmm
legitimately you just drop into an area, try and get all the loot you can get, and then get out. Like that's the
yeah.
whole.
Just do what I do and play Pokemon 80 times. Like play three Pokemon games at a time.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, I got. No, it's but yeah, it's I don't know. I just
Hey, I
there's
can't really
yeah
really say shit. I've been sitting here for the last like 30 minutes playing a new character in Elden Ring,
yeah
so
yeah
probably longer than 30 minutes here.
yeah um yeah I just don't yeah I feel like there's an opportunity for like cool Templars who are like heroes of the revolution and we don't do anything with it.
Hmm.
Like I don't see why the Templars can't be like good guys because I mean yeah the real history is one thing, but I mean I think there's some shit that changes when the leaders of the Catholic Church and the French monarchy kill your boss and like torture him into saying like he was spitting on the cross or like shoving like uh like holy water up its butt or something.
That, my friends, is how enemas were created.
Maybe.
At least maybe that'll be included in Dan Brown's next book.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. I've heard of stuff. Yeah, that's actually another funny part of this is like the Da Vinci Code rips off a bunch of stuff from the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and they
Uh-huh.
got into a legal fight over that.
Yeah.
That they were basically saying it was actually like a bunch of people sued Dan Brown over the Da Vinci Code because a
Which
lot of people made that
I hate
story.
to break it to you, but like a lot of this shit that we've been talking about this whole entire like episode, or like some of my weird comfort stuff. Like
Yeah,
I don't hate the Da Vinci Code. Like
no,
I
I'm not
like
saying.
Tom Hanks in it, and I like the books when I was younger. I don't think I've reread them in a while, but like National Treasure, fucking love National Treasure. Rewatch it
Oh yeah,
probably once a year.
yeah.
Um,
Like I'm not slamming, except the conspiracy theorists. Them I'm slamming, but
Fair enough.
I'm not really slamming a lot of the books. I criticize how maybe like Dan Brown thinks the stuff in that book is real,
Hmm.
but I'm not really. I'm not. What am I gonna do? Shit on National Treasure?
Yeah.
Talk shit about beloved national icon Nicolas Cage?
Okay.
Yeah. What am I doing?
It's a
That's gonna
little
get me.
much, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. Just yeah. But yeah, it's no, there were a lot of guys that sued that Dan Brown or the Da Vinci Code because like four guys made that novel. Essentially, it sounds like before he did.
before he did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think any of them go anywhere because they're all pulling from the same fucking conspiracy theory. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to like essentially like what the British courts have said. Like, yeah, you're all pulling from the same nonsense.
Hmm.
I don't think there was like and like these guys haven't actually met for the most part. A lot of like these authors, obviously, I completely believe why they hate each other because like Dan Brown comes along and like does your shit and it makes millions of dollars off it. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you've got nothing. But and like it's plagiarism's maybe the a bit harsh to throw around, but it does feel it does feel rough. And the cases are it's a pretty obvious plot or whatever, but and also like the Holy Blood and the Holy Ghost, it does like again, it does the common conspiracy theory thing where it's like literally just ripping things off from anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and coding them in a different coat of paint, so that they're more palatable to like a regular audience. Yeah, it's I think there's a place in the world for like really cool pro revolution like Templars is like a hero of a story, like a cool secret society. Like what if they were actually the assassins?
But I think that the problem with that is then it boils down to like secularism. Like, do I really want to play like a Jesus freak? And
Yeah, there's some of that, and like I don't know. You could also take it in like a okay. I don't know. There's ways you could do it.
there,
I
there
think you
was
could make it cool.
there was an episode like of as I was laying there being gimped from a scooter accident.
Yeah.
I started watching uh Follow 4,
Oh yeah.
like the new
Oh,
TV,
the
or
season,
not Follow 4,
the
the
TV show,
TV show, and there was the big power armor suit guys. I'm forgetting their
Brotherhood
names.
of Steel.
The Brotherhood of Steel. They're like the main guy dies, like the not the main guy, the first guy that the guy squires from, and they're like sitting there talking, and they're like, "Do you know what the fucking like all these religious fanatics, they send you out on these missions, and the only thing you get from it is a fucking toaster oven. Do you even know what you can do with a toaster oven? You can toast." It's like
And I don't know. Maybe this is me just like wanting to like get it, like talk about it and like maybe do it. Maybe I'm doing this myself at some point,
Mhm.
doing like the heroic Templar story. But yeah, I think that's basically the end of the episode.
Okay.
I don't know what we're doing next for sure. I am on vacation this week.
Oh,
Yeah,
lucky you.
yeah, I'm going on my retreat tomorrow. So yeah, yeah, I need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, no. I'll try to edit this over the weekend, but yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do a movie review. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a look and see what we feel.